Alrighty. All right. Hi, everybody. All right. Hi, Sarah. Nice to see you. Yes, I'm glad you can catch me for a few minutes too. All right. Tonight is going to be probably like a 40-minute show. We'll see. Hi, Nicole. I'm going to be talking about self-doubt when you're a medical coding student because there's a lot of that. And I've been getting a lot of those self-doubt comments like, oh, I can't do self-study. I need my handheld. Basically, I need a teacher. Everybody needs a teacher for this. Absolutely. I 100% agree. What I don't agree with is when you say, I can't self-study, or I don't know how to self-study, or I'm not disciplined enough to self-study. No, no, we're not doing that here, okay? And I will call you out for saying those kinds of things. So if you don't want to be called out for saying, I don't think I can self-study, if you don't want to be called out for that, then don't comment on my channel. I don't allow that here on my channel. I do not allow people to talk down about themselves. I don't know about this. I don't know if I'm smart enough. I've been getting a lot of those lately too. And I don't like those either. Because when you start self-doubting, oh, I'm not smart enough and I don't think I can do this because, X, Y, and Z, or, I need to have a teacher. Yes, but there's also a development of self-discipline that happens with this field. And a lot of people don't know that, is that you have to get with your books. You have to sit there. No one needs to sit here and babysit you to do your studies. Nobody. Not a teacher, not anybody from the school, nobody. You need to do it yourself, because a lot of times in these schools, sometimes they do not have the best teachers, okay? Because they couldn't cut it in the real world. They weren't comfortable with having to do all the production standards. They're just burnt out with being in the real world. So they'll often go to teaching. And not all teachers are bad teachers, but there's a majority of teachers that they're going to teach you from the book because they have a school plan, and the school plan is that you teach from the book. And they don't want to step outside that thought of like critical thinking, like how to teach to critical think. And that's the thing that a lot of students are missing. And so when students get it in their head, especially medical coding students, medical billing and coding students, Blue, I'm older. I'm coming in this industry from another industry, and maybe I know some things about the electronic health record. Maybe I know some things about medical terminology, and this will set me up for success. But I really need somebody to hold my hand because I'm not good at self-study. You're going to have to be good at self-study. And if it upsets you that I say that you have to be good at something, because of course I'm from Texas, okay, and we say things like ma'am. When I had a lady who was saying this the other night, she's going on and on about how she can't study, that she needs direction. She needs something, somebody directing her, basically holding her by the hand. And I told her, ma'am, please stop. And she got mad at me. She's like, ma'am. She came back at me. Okay, that's fine. But I'm saying it in the fact that you're coming to my channel and saying that you are completely lost and that you need your hand held, and that you can't do self-study, that you need a teacher to teach you. That's not the way that this industry works. And when people come to my channel, it's because these are strong coders. Every single one of these 49,000, am I at 49,000? I think. What am I? Yeah, I'm at 49,000. Every single one of these 49,000 subscribers knows, as soon as you subscribe to my channel, that this is for strong coders. This is not for your Mickey Mouse coders. These are for strong coders. Because I'll tell you that when people subscribe to my channel and they see how, oh, she's very direct. Yes, it'll run some people off, and that's fine. If it runs you off, I can't do anything for you. But for the ones that stick around, do you know how many have come back and told me, Blue, I just love what I'm doing. I used to hate what I did before. Do you think that they would be like that if I was so Mickey Mouse and, oh, no, they wouldn't. And by the way, I encouraged that other lady who got upset with me for telling her, ma'am, please stop. And she took it as an insult. You could take it as an insult if you want to. I was raised with manners. I'm just saying. So the thing about it is, when you're getting into this, you need to be self-disciplined. I tell y'all to study 20 hours per week. You can make the time. If it is important to you, you will make the time. 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes at lunchtime, 30 minutes in the afternoon, and then 1 hour and 1 hour. That's 3.5 hours that you've done in one day. You do this for 5 days at 17.5 hours, and then you have 2.5 hours on a Saturday or Sunday, and you're done studying for the week. You still have time to be with your family and to do all the things that you want to do. You don't have to sacrifice. It's not a big sacrifice. It's just consistent discipline. That is all this is consistent discipline. And I'm telling you directly because, again, when people are told real sugary and real sweet, they don't listen. Because I have tried that before. You know, people would say in the beginning, oh, Blue, you're too direct. And I'm thinking, my God, am I too direct? And maybe I need to sweeten it up a little bit. And so I was really nice and sweet about it. And then people were asking me the same questions over and over and over again. So when I started, you know what? They're not listening to me anyway. Let me just go ahead and say it directly. Then all of a sudden, I get a bunch of people, okay, I get it now. And they're like, now I understand. So again, I tell you this. I am direct because it is the way that my message is better received. If you do not receive this message well, because you don't like my tone, there's plenty of other places where you can learn. You do not have to take my advice. I have just been in this industry for 17 years. I love what I do. And believe it or not, I actually love new coders because they're brand new. They have no bad habits. But you are coming in with how you feel about yourself and your confidence level. And that's what I want people to raise about themselves. There is no reason that you can't do this. If you're thinking to yourself, no, I don't know, because, you know, I'm older, Blue. I may be in my late 40s. I may be in my late 30s. Although how you can say you're older and you're in your 30s, you're a baby. But you say, okay, well, Blue, I'm a little bit older. I have kids. I haven't worked in so many years. I don't know if I could do this. Again, sometimes the industry will call people, okay? And it's a universe thing, okay? I totally believe in that because I knew nothing about medical coding when I first started. I was unemployed. I did not have a job, okay? So I was at the unemployment office when I got introduced to medical coding. And when I got into the room with my case manager, he told me, oh, what do you think about medical coding? And I said, oh, no, I don't do nothing with needles because I know everything, right? It's just like people who are coming in and thinking that they know and they don't know. And so he's like, oh, no, it's not needles, it's reading. You're just reading documentation, you're reading doctor's notes, and you're translating their documentation into, you know, codes for the insurance and for statistical purposes. And I'm like, I could do that. That sounds interesting. And so then here I am all these years later. And I wouldn't have it any other way, honestly, because I love what I do. And I like the critical thinking part of it. That whole element of like looking at a document, seeing what it says and translating it. You know, I just had this situation too with a record I was looking at where the documentation and what was the question of which code to select, it was less like it really showed the level of experience of the coders that were involved. And so it's just like, oh, okay, well, here's this situation, you know. But that's the whole critical thinking part about it. You know, when you're looking at just the record itself and you're looking at the situation, whatever the case is, and then you're like, oh, okay, because you have the information in front of you. And as somebody who is very seasoned versus somebody who is not so seasoned, you can tell the difference in the coding. And it's not always, oh, everybody will have their different interpretations. It's nothing like that. It is totally about, do you know your guidelines? Do you know which codes are available? And which is why I tell y'all that I've broken it down before on the channel. I've done a video, which again did not do well because for whatever reason, y'all don't watch my coding videos. But there is a video out there that I did maybe a couple months ago about the ICD-10-CM manual, how to study for the Z codes, right? Everybody always asks me about the Z codes. How do I study for Z codes? I don't even know what's there. You literally go back to the section where the Z codes are at in the ICD-10-CM manual, whichever one you have. But of course, not an ad, but I will always recommend Optum. You go back to that section back there, and you just look at all of the codes that are available, all of the options that are there, and you read the notes. There's lots of notes. That's why I love Optum, because not every coding manual has all these notes. I have an AAPC ICD-10-CM manual, and it doesn't have as many notes in the coding section. It has lots of illustrations, wonderful, beautiful illustrations, but it doesn't have the same notes like Optum does. And each publisher is going to have different things that they offer in their books. And so that's one of the reasons why I will always recommend the ICD-10-CM Expert for Physicians. They do have a hospital's version. I do not use the hospital's version, guys. I always say that, and then I get somebody, what's the difference? I don't care what the difference is. You can use either one of those books for your coding test, right? Either one of these. If you're taking an AHIMA exam or an AAPC exam, you can use either one of those manuals. But the one that I would always recommend is the Expert for Physicians, because I like the information that it has in it. And I've seen the hospital's version, and it has a lot of good stuff, same thing, but again, I don't know, I just feel there's more comprehensiveness in the physician's manual. So, all right. Hi, other Nicole. My name is BLEU. Thank you. Hi, Alexandria. Hi, Janice. Yep. Alexandria, the self-studying never ends, even when you get a job. Yes. Hello, Upstar Stuff. Alexandria, this is no place for babies. That's my grandfather's favorite saying. Well, that's true. Bronzy Gold says, I realized I will need to probably go to the library or Barnes and Noble after work because I will pass this time. Thanks. Well, there you go. Rondalyn, you're perfect. I love your approach. It keeps me on my toes. Well, good. And somebody told me the other day, thanks for the kick in the pants, Blue. I said, hey, happy to do it. But again, sometimes we need to be told directly rather than like, oh, sugar it up. And I've learned that from being with my surgeons, because a lot of times, like, I would see other coders talk to the surgeons, right? And I would see their approach and how they try to approach them all sweet and so nice. And then they're like, why did they do that? I don't know. They're scared. They're intimidated. And why are they intimidated? Well, hello. You've been to medical school and you have all of these years of education, and we have certifications, and that's it. A lot of us have a high school diploma or a GED and a certification. And that's it. And so, it's very intimidating, and you think that it would stop because they're not like patients of that doctor, but it does get to be a little nerve-wracking, especially if they've experienced a doctor yelling at them. It does kind of like make them a little trigger shy. The next time they go up to a doctor, they're like, okay, maybe if I need to be really sweet, I'll be just direct with you. You got a couple minutes? Okay, here we go. This is what we have. Do I need to come back later? Absolutely. I can do that. And I will be as accommodating for them as possible. But I tell them, I'm not a mind reader either, And so if they want to get it, then they got to give as good as they give it, which is that if you want me to be direct with you, you need to be direct with me. Okay? So that's just the way that it goes, I'm not going to get overly sensitive, but there is a line. I will not tolerate disrespect. That is the one thing that I will not tolerate for my surgeons. And they know it. Because I respect them. I will defend them no matter how difficult they make my job. But I will defend them. And they know about it, and they'll hear about it too. but I expect them to be respectful with me. And that's all I ask. Yes, never change your approach. Thank you, Alexandria. I love the straightforward, tough love. Plus, good for you always using your manners. Yes, that's true. You know, that's true. Manners goes a long way. So, ma'am, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir. That goes a long way. And a lot of people, I don't know why people think that that's so rude. Like I've had people say, "Oh, yes, ma'am. Oh, I'm so sorry. I wasn't supposed to say yes, ma'am." Were you raised in a barn? Why wouldn't you be able to say yes, ma'am? Well, I get yelled at. You know, if people take it like you're telling them that they're old. How is saying yes, ma'am that you're old? You know what I mean? Like I don't get it. You know, I was 19 and they still said yes, ma'am. 18 years old when I'm working and they still said yes, ma'am. You know what I mean? Like who says yes, miss? That sounds creepy and stupid. I'm just saying. But yes, back to the subject. I know. We need to start with the positive self-talk. You know, a lot of people say, well, you know, you need to look in the mirror and you need to say this to yourself. I mean, to me, you don't have to go as far as the mirror to like give yourself that positive talk, but you will say things positively out loud. Instead of saying, oh no, I don't know if I can do this. I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. That needs to be your mantra. I can do this. Because at the end of the day, the worst thing that can happen is if you don't do well on a test or if you don't figure out something, you just fall down. Well, what do you do when you fall down? You get right back up. It's not the end of the world. You're going to make mistakes. So if you think that you're not going to make mistakes in your career, you're setting yourself up for heartache. Okay? You have to learn to accept that you will make mistakes. I have been audited before. I have had my stuff looked at, my code selections. I have been told both sides of the fence, like, wow, Blue, that was some really good coding capture because I wouldn't have caught that. And then, hey, Blue, you missed this one. And I'm like, how in the heck did I miss that? But it is possible. We're all human. We are all human. And so you will make mistakes. And I'll be like, man, that was I'll get on to myself, but then I'll stop myself too because it's a natural thing. You know, everybody has a little bit of perfectionism in them, right? And so for me, sometimes I'm like, man, and it used to be bad, like worse when I was younger. Like, man, that was really, and then I thought about it, and as you mature in the industry, then you're like, this is just a natural part of it. If I wasn't willing to make those mistakes, or if I didn't have those mistakes, and then they was called to my attention, I would never grow. You know, I literally would never grow. And so that's part of the beauty of making a mistake too. And if you're saying, well, I don't know if I'll pass, I've had people like this past week saying, well, if I don't pass the CPC, can I get, you know, these other specialty credentials, OBGYN coder? Okay, you're doubting that you can pass the CPC, but then you say, well, if you fail this one, you're going to go for the OBGYN coder. One test you want everything, and one is testing you on OBGYN, which in OBGYN, you still have to know everything. You know, mother-baby coding is not the easiest either. I liken it a lot to injury coding, which a lot of people are afraid of injury coding. I am not afraid of injury coding. But there's a lot of people that are afraid of it because, oh my gosh, this initial and subsequent and sequela, and it's always so confusing. No, it's not. You just have to know the rules. And it's the same thing with mother-baby. There's going to be conditions that are going to be coded while they're pregnant, and then while, you know, after they've delivered their baby. And then there's going to be that pregnancy code that goes with every single condition that they have. They have an endocrine condition. There's that the pregnancy code with endocrine complications or whatever, or complications of pregnancy with an endocrine issue or whatever, however it goes. But you have that, and then you got to code the endocrine issue, and then you got to code if they're a smoker, right? Tobacco use, complicating pregnancy, and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of those things that go with coding for mother baby. Again, making you have to learn about all of these other specialties as well. So don't think that just because, oh, I'm going to fail the CPC, so let me go take the OBGYN. You are responsible for the codes that are being selected. So if you think that you can't pass the CPC and you fail, you actually do end up failing the CPC, you think it's okay to go jump over to the OBGYN side? You don't think that's going to be harder for you? That's the thing. You guys got to think that that's going to be way harder because it's more specialized, and yet you still have to know all of these things. And then I tell people all the time, are they asking for the OBGYN specialty credential? No. A lot of times you'll see that in the job listings. But there are instances where later in your career, if you want to add on additional credentials, which is going to be the episode for tomorrow that I'm going to film, and it may be necessary to add on additional credentials. But if you're brand new, no, you need to be starting out with one of the four: the CCS, that is the gold standard of medical coding credentials, the CCA, the Certified Coding Associate, or the CCSP, the Certified Coding Specialist Physician Base. These are all with the American Health Information Management Association. Then there's the CPC, Certified Professional Coder with the American Academy of Professional Coders. Now, if you have no experience on that CPC, they will have a -A for apprentice, for the first 2 years. Now, you need to meet certain requirements in those 2 years for them to remove that apprentice status. But you may be able to go through a program, and that program may be approved to help you to accelerate the removal of that apprentice. So you don't have to be the apprentice for the first 2 years, the full 2 years, because they also have Practicode as well. And that's just an educational product with Practicode. So there's ways of accelerating the removal of the apprentice, and everybody thinks, oh, I got to get rid of that apprentice status. No, you don't. People will still hire you anyway, because guess what happens if you have no apprentice status and you get a full-fledged CPC? Don't you think you're still going to have a hard time finding your first job because you have no experience? And I always tell y'all, it goes right back to the resume. But again, broken record over here, But that is 100% of what the problem is a lot of the time. Because believe it or not, new people do get jobs. But when new people put in barriers, like they want to work remotely, they have to work remotely, they have to make X amount of dollars, you haven't earned it yet. You haven't earned it yet. You need to be on site first. A lot of people want to go through these easy places to try to get in. These contracts are great because they'll give you the experience. But if you get an HCC contract, the hierarchical condition category or risk adjustment coding, it's just diagnosis coding. Not going to help you much. It'll get you exposure to the electronic health record, but if you stay there too long, you will forget how to do evaluation and management. You will forget all about how to do your procedure coding and your modifiers. So do I recommend that for a long time? No, I don't. But again, people get offended and they say, oh no, you're wrong, you're wrong. And then they're writing me 4 years later, I've been in HCC for 4 years and I want to move on, but I'm terrified because I haven't done procedure coding. We can't pick up a book. We can't start practicing again. We can't start looking stuff up in the book. That's what we have to do, folks. That's what we have to do. That's how we build our confidence. Because this running around, listening to these stupid Facebook groups or whatever other group, wherever you go, and they're saying all these negative things, because you're wasting time doing that. You're wasting time being in those groups with other people who feel bad about themselves. So let's just commiserate. Let's just commiserate and say, oh yeah, it's a big scam. No, it's not. No, it's not. You may have gotten into a horrible program. You may have gotten taken advantage of, which is already going to sour you. But it doesn't have to stop you from being successful. There's been a lot of people that say, Blue, I really wish I would have found you before I got into this program. I hate this program so much. I'm going to do your self-study. They do my self-study. They say this was much better than what they were learning at their paid school. And guess who has a job now? I listened to your videos about the resume tips. I listened to your videos about the interview prep. And I was able to prepare myself. And now I have a job. All right. Let's see. Alexandria says, I always use my manners and make my kids as well. My son's teacher actually accused him of being a smart butt for using manners. I was livid. See? But there's people that are that ignorant that if you're being polite, like that, I told that lady, ma'am, please stop. She got all upset, started screaming and hollering. Really? Again, really? And they wonder why children are disrespectful to adults, and then they're the ones out there disrespecting other adults. Where do you think that these kids learn this stuff from? I'm just saying. I would have been livid too, Alexandria. Nicole says respect factor. Michelle says, yeah, that's what I tell my husband. I can do this. If I miss something, I don't, I'll get myself to figure it out where I went wrong. There you go. Hi, Crystal. Got to get up early and get the kids to school and then work. Thanks. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for stopping in, Alexandria. All right. Okay. Hi, Vanessa. So, yes. That's my advice anyway. You got to have manners. I mean, even though it's not cosmopolitan, it doesn't seem to be the cool thing. You can still use ma'am. You can still use sir. It is not disrespectful. You can still use appropriate punctuations when you're sending text messages, which is apparently aggressive. If you're sending out a message and you're using proper grammar, right? Like periods and commas and stuff like that, it's known as aggressive now. You can't put the first letter of somebody's name with a capital letter. It's all lowercase. What kind of freaking crap is that, you know? But a capital letter is disrespectful. I don't know. I just don't understand. I don't get it, you know, whatever. But yes. So you always have somebody that is talking against the wind, which is me, right? Saying to have good manners, to practice and study so that way you can build your confidence and stop talking bad about yourself. Stop saying, oh, I need somebody to help direct me. No, you can direct yourself, because if you really need somebody to direct you that bad, you don't need to be in this field. This is very self-driven. It's a very self-driven field. Some of my nurses, it's scary. Some of the things that I hear from my nurses, right? They message me these things and I'm just like, how did you learn when you were taking the NCLEX? Like, how did you learn? I don't get it. I had this one lady, she wrote me too. I think she's a LPN or something. LPN. And she was saying, oh, I can't find any of the books that you recommend. Where can I find them? So you want me to hand feed you where you can find the books, even though you have the title, but you can't go to the public library and see if they have it. You can't go to Barnes and Noble and see if they have it. You can't go online to Amazon and see if they have it. You can't punch that in because you suddenly can't find it. You can't find Optum books. I was told she couldn't find the Optum books either. And I'm like, that's a joke. That's literally a joke, because you go to optumcoding.com. You can even Google Optum medical coding books and you'll see the website right there. I put the on my regular videos, not on the live videos, but on my regular videos, I have the Optum link, literally the Optum website link. They do not pay me. They do not. They know I'm a huge fan because every time I go to conference, which I will not be at conference this year, but when I do go to conference, I run to their booth and tell them what a huge fan I am, and they love it. You know, I love it. They don't pay me, but I'm willing to talk about their product positively because it helps new coders, and it helps other coders. It helps veteran coders because the tools that you use are going to be in direct correlation with your confidence level. If you're not looking at your books, you're going to be lost in the sauce. But if you are actually taking the time to look at your books and looking at your books like legitimately, not tabbing them to heck and gone, right? Because that doesn't help you. Tabbing your books does not help you. Oh, yes, Blue, that's how I learned. No, it isn't how you learn. It's how somebody sold you to learn. And that's the problem there too. Because you're saying, well, I don't like books. It's going to be all online anyway. Yes, we do have encoders, and encoders do help you. It's an electronic code book. It does help you to code faster because there's like a pathway, and you start like putting in a few words, and it'll start like a little pathway of asking you questions, and then it'll give you the code that you're looking for. But if you don't know what code or what words to put in, that's when you can get lost. If you answer the questions wrong, you can also get the wrong code, right? So let's just say that the provider documents that the patient has a buccal fracture, right? This happens with children, right? But if you notice in the encoder, it's not listed as buccal. It's listed as a torus fracture. They're the same thing, right? And so if you're looking, oh, it doesn't say buccal, so you move right along and you get this other code, you're getting the wrong code because you're supposed to code it as a torus fracture. But if you don't know that, you're getting the wrong code. But then if you're looking in your book where it's giving you all these options, and then it's giving you these extra things, these non-essential modifiers, right, which is the extra words that it could potentially be as well, synonyms and what have you, and then you're looking at that and you're like, oh, okay. So the book is actually much better. Now, you're not going to have time to use your book for every single encounter that you're coding for, or every single record that you're coding for, but there will be times when something's going to get very complex and complicated really quick, and having your book on hand is what's going to help you. And again, I'm telling you guys, if you start to look at your book and not tab it up, highlight it, write it, circle it, do all this other garbage to it, because you're not a doctor. Doctors wrote these books. Doctors and scholars wrote these books. So all you have to do is learn to use the book. Again, building our confidence. That's how you build confidence. That's how you can be sure of yourself. That's how you can get to that point where you will be more confident. You will start saying less negative things about yourself. I don't know. Yes, I do know. I can do this. I got this. Right? Is it making sense? All right. Hi, Luna. I am. Thank you very much. Hi, Vanessa. LOL, since when? You're supposed to. That's the problem. People don't know the right punctuation. Yes. Hi, Kimberly. Yes, April. Hi, April. Glad you were able to catch the live as well. Luna says, yes, I'm working with a 3M encoder. I like it. The coding clinics are awesome. See? Coding Clinic is really awesome. Coding Clinic is where they send in questions to the editors, and they answer these really complex off-the-wall questions where sometimes the guidelines may not be as direct in that particular situation. You can read all the past coding clinics, and that will really help you to understand how to do complex coding so that it's not so difficult for you. Jacqueline says, I've been reading my guidelines every day at lunchtime and after working in my workbooks, the ones you recommended. Is very helpful when studying. There you go. There you go. And you're not going to walk into this field, you're not going to walk into this industry knowing everything. You're not. And a lot of people, they want it right now. And if they don't get it right now, then oh no, maybe I can't do this. This other lady was telling me that she's been studying this for 2 years and she still doesn't know if it's for her. So you haven't taken the certification yet. You haven't gotten out into the real world yet, and you're questioning if it's right for you. If you would spend a little bit more time studying and have a few more instances where you're getting things, where you understand things, then maybe you'd be a little bit more confident than spending 2 years on this and thinking, oh no, I don't know, because you're going to talk yourself out of it if you keep doing that, rather than just plunging in. Was I 100% confident when I walked into my first job? Absolutely not. I would be lying to you if I told you I was 100% confident. But at least I was confident enough to show up. At least I was confident enough to give myself the opportunity to fail, the opportunity to do really well. I gave myself that shot because I earned it. I earned it. I had been studying. And that job, my first job was at the Cancer Therapy Research Center. Then I was able to move on to my second job, which was I was doing inpatient professional services in the hospital, still coding outpatient, but inpatient professional services, patients staying in the hospital, and the outpatient provider goes up and sees them. I was coding for that. In that position, a lot of people had quit. So you want to talk about extra pressure, extra, like, you know, like, can I really do this? And I was far away from home. No, I had to succeed. And I did not give myself the option to quit. And that's what a lot of you need to do for yourselves, is not give yourself the option to quit or get into something easier. You don't need to get into anything easier. Everything is going to have its own challenges. But this is something that will, if you stick with it, it will help you grow personally, professionally. There's lots of benefit to it, but you have to give it a chance, and you can't get aggravated with it. And you can get tutors. And if you don't have money, that's fine. Get a mentor. A mentor will help you for free. And there's lots of people on LinkedIn who are willing to mentor. All you have to do is say, look, I'm a student and I have some questions. I really need a mentor. I can't afford a tutor right now. I'm going to post some questions, and hopefully somebody will answer based on their experience or based on something that they know or whatever. And that's how you start the conversation that way. Okay. And so that way you can get the information that you need, because otherwise you're still going to be sitting here running in circles. And then somebody, oh, where do we go for mentors on LinkedIn? God, make a post. Make a post. Make a post. And you ask your question directly. Not talk about how you're about to be kicked out of your house, or how you're so frustrated with this, or your teacher's a moron because they didn't teach you. No, you just directly ask your question. Straight. No chaser. Just ask it straight. And you will get responses. Sometimes you may have to wait a few days, because I've seen people ask questions. I don't jump in unless I know the person, right? It's very rare that I will jump in on somebody that I don't know, because first of all, I don't know you. You know, I don't know what your background is. And anytime I had done that before, the people were just like ungrateful. So I'm not going to answer your question. I'll let somebody else answer it. But if I know the person, I'll answer them. I'll answer them. And especially if I have the time, I'll answer their question real quick. And so depending on what it is, you know. All right. Vanessa says, Blue, I know you list all the books, but how many ICD-10 and CPT books do you need? I have the ones that you listed. You only need those. You only need those. There's different publishers. Is that what you're getting confused on? There's different publishers. Like AAPC has their ICD-10-CM book. AHIMA has their ICD-10-CM book. The AMA has their ICD-10-CM book. You don't have to get all of those. I just happen to have the AAPC version of ICD-10-CM because one of my viewers sent it to me. So I was like, oh, okay, thank you, you know. And I was able to look at it because I don't have a copy of my own. You know, I have the Optum books. And so that was the only way that I knew that. But all you need is one. You just need one copy. But if you have, like, some people have said, well, I have the AAPC book. And, you know, they always hear me talk about Optum. So when they got their new books, they ordered Optum books and they saw the difference. And they're like, it is much more comprehensive and it was much easier for them to learn from. So that's the only difference. But if you have the books that I recommended, you don't need anything else. You don't need anything else. This is my advice anyway. Renee says, love the advice about mentors. There's also a mentor forum on the APC website. See, there's all of those things. And I think AHIMA has that as well. Yes, that's what I'm getting confused on. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. And like I said, all you need is the one book. You don't need the several different versions of the Optum book because it's all the same. It's basically having multiple different dictionaries is basically what you're looking at. You know, dictionaries all have the same, you know, or similar words in them, like same set of words. Some have more, like, you know, the Merriam-Webster dictionary may have be more comprehensive or whatever. But it's a dictionary. It's going to have the same information in it. It just may have more or may have more complex. It's the same thing with the ICD-10 CM manuals. And I never thought about that. I never thought about somebody asking that question, like with the different publishers. And if you look like on the AAPC website and even on the AHIMA website, they have like a whole list of approved books that you can use to take their test. The one that we all have to have is a CPT Professional Edition by the AMA. Everybody has to have that. Optum has their version, but it's not called CPT. It's called Current Procedural Coding Expert, I think. And but it's all CPT codes, but it's different, and you can't use the Optum version for your tests. You can only use the AMA, the CPT Professional Edition. This chair making so much noise, but you can use that one for your test, the AMA CPT Professional Edition, and I like it. It's comprehensive. It's got all these notes in it. It's got everything that you need to know about CPT. It's got modifier definitions in it and everything. It's got the anatomy plates. So if you're worked up about memorizing your anatomy, you still have a reference there should you need it. You know, it's good to have like a good foundational knowledge of knowing where the stuff is in the body versus, you know, not knowing where it's at. But the book does have it. You know, CPT was real good for that. You know, and with Optum, with the ICD-10 CM manual, both AHIMA and AAPC say you have your choice of publisher. And what having your choice of publisher means is that you can use Optum, you can use AMA, you can use AHIMA or AAPC ICD-10 CM versions. Any one of these versions you can use. And so, but everybody has to have the CPT Professional Edition by the AMA. That's the only thing. So the ICD-10 CM manual, the ICD-10 PCS manual, and the HCPCS manual, all up for your own preference, whichever one you want. And a lot of people will use the AAPC book if they're taking, you know, the CPC, because that's the book that came with the bundle, you know, and that's the case, then that's all you have. That's fine, you know. But if you have a choice and you're out there and you're purchasing your own books on your own dime, that's why I say go to Optum. Optum has great sales. However, they are a little bit higher than they used to be because at the end of the year was like the best because you could get the books for like $28 or $30. You know what I mean? Now, no. I just looked on their website and the 2025s are still like 100, 108 something, whatever, for their ICD-10 CM book. So they're still really high, but I mean, still a little bit of a discount, you know, but it's worth it. It is worth it, you know, depending on your view of these books. And some people get loyally, you know, like really loyally with, well, I'm taking an AAPC exam and I don't want to take any other books. I just want AAPC. You can do that. That's fine, you know. But if you're learning from a seasoned coder, hello, you know, I'm going to tell you that you have your choice of publisher, and this is a fantastic book because it is more, I think it's more user-friendly than other books. Not necessarily talking about the AAPC book only. I'm talking about all the other ones that are out there. Optum is very user-friendly. It's got a lot of really good information in it. So this is my advice anyway. Yes, Optum books are fantastic. Upstar Stuff says, I like how Optum strikes through the there you go. Yep. Yes. Okay, good, Vanessa. Thank you for your advice. Yes. So we need to work on our positive self-talk. When the second we start to think, I don't know if I can do this. If you hear anything that I'm saying, because people will often tell me, Blue, I heard your words. And I said to myself, yes, I can. And then they do. You just have to give yourself a chance. There's a lot of external influences that could be discouraging you, like the horrible thought of AI, right? Which AI can't critically think. So let's just take that off the table. You may have, you know, a loved one, spouse, boyfriend or girlfriend, even your kids, your parents who may say, oh, you're not smart enough. I used to go to school when I went to a trade school. Trade school is no longer there for the one I went to for medical coding. And a lot of the ladies, their mothers would tell them that they weren't smart enough. And I'm like, your mom said that? Like, my mom was my biggest cheerleader. She was the reason that she is the reason that I have my career. And she passed away, but I was so grateful that she was right there with me the whole way through. She never let me doubt myself. Never. Not once. Not once. And she was always right there. Always. And she helped me to study. And that was the best thing. She used to help me study. She used to make flashcards for me. I still have them. And she would go online and she would make these crossword puzzles so that I could sharpen my medical terminology. And the crossword puzzles I make for my Patreons now. And I make like word finds and stuff like that. And so that's my way of continuing my mom's legacy of helping other people to learn, because that's what helped me to learn. And so she would make them for me, and I was like, oh, okay, this is neat. So it turned into a game. So it was nice, And then when I passed, she was like, see, I told you could do it. I never doubted you. She never doubted me. Not once. Let's see. I see some comments, but I don't know why it's not coming on here. Why are we not? Do I need to refresh the screen, YouTube? Okay, I'm going to refresh the screen. This is all big old comments. Let's see. Okay. Did I miss comments? Let's see. Jacqueline says, my exam, I saw like a bunch of writing, so I don't know why I missed a comment. So if I'm not reading your comment, you can post it again, because I'm not seeing a comment. Let's see what we got. Jacqueline says, my exam is coming up soon. Any advice for the next 30 days? Well, if it's in the next 30 days, you should be studying 20 hours per week. And when you get to about 3 or 4 days prior to your exam, you don't need to be studying. Just leave it alone. You're not going to learn anything new in 3 or 4 days. And you're going to burn yourself out. So make sure that you rest. The day of your exam, you make sure that you eat something light enough that is going to tide you over, because however long your test is, at least 4 hours, you're going to need to make sure that you had enough to eat. Don't eat something so heavy that you're going to make yourself sleepy, but just eat just enough. Make sure you have a little bit of coffee or tea or anything that you drink in the morning, so that way you can be awake. Don't drink too much, because you don't want to have to be racing to the bathroom, but trust me, you will not have time to go at all. You won't even be thinking about that when you're in the exam room, okay? Or if you're taking it at home, you're not going to have time to think about that. But just give yourself enough so that you're satisfied for the next 4 hours, because you're going to be hungry when you get out of there. And so don't try to cram a bunch of stuff in. The bulk of these tests is going to be the coding portion. So make sure that you are practicing with the coding. Yes, there is reimbursement stuff, and you should already know that. You should already know HIPAA. If you are saying, well, Blue, I'm not so strong on E&M. E&M is a sliver of these exams. It is not the bulk. It is a sliver. So that means, yes, you're still going to have some E&M questions, but it's not going to be as bad as you're thinking, like, oh my God, this is going to be the reason that I failed. No. The reason that you might fail is if you don't nail the coding and you don't nail it fast enough. That's going to be the bulk reason why. The other reason that you may fail is because you didn't get the reimbursement side right, okay? And that is knowing, like, just the basic stuff about reimbursement and things like that. So, but again, the bulk part of these exams is going to be the coding knowledge and skills, so you need to have that down, And if all else fails, right, come test day, all you have to do is just take the test again. You'll feel disappointed, sure, but it's not the end of the world. You can have another chance. Trust me, these associations will not deny your money. You can take it as many times as you like, okay, until you pass, but you don't want to keep taking it. If you've been studying consistently 20 hours per week like you're supposed to, you will not have an issue. You will not have an issue, okay? That is my biggest advice. Luna says you can always tack post-it notes with positive self-affirmations where you can see them. This can help you to develop a positive mindset. There you go. And Vanessa says, you got this. If I am not reading your big old comment, make sure that you copy and paste it because I missed it. I don't know how. Bronzy says, some of those Facebook coding groups are discouraging. I had to unsubscribe to a lot of them because they weren't helping me. They also had scammers that were doing like job offers. Just my experience. And that's like the number one thing I have said since the inception of my channel is to stay out of those Facebook medical coding groups. I have one for Medical Coding with Bleu. I have a lock on it as far as like who can post. There's only one that he can post anytime he wants to. He has not posted in quite a while. Luna knows who I'm talking about. But I don't allow just anybody to post just anything, because when I see comments come through on there, I'll read them first before they get posted. And when I see something on there like, really, no, we're not posting that. Or they'll post something like super discouraging about their experience. No, you're not going to share. You're not going to commiserate here. No, we're not doing that. So I delete the comment before it gets posted. And if it's really bad, I ban the person from the group because you're going to be negative. You're not coming over here for that. But other than that, people seem to like it, I think. Crystal says, congratulations on the upcoming exam, Jacqueline. Keep on positive thoughts. There you go. Yep. So see, Luna, but yeah, that's what I have to say about that. If you are feeling down on yourself, the best thing that you can do to erase that self-doubt is to get into these books. And a lot of people, when I've told them about like in the ICD, if you're studying for ICD-10 PCS, right, the inpatient coding side, if you're taking like the CCS, the CCA, or the CIC, right, you're studying for that, and you have the Optum ICD-10 PCS book. In the back, there's 388 procedures that you can look up along, and it'll have the answer key as well. So it has it blank, the 388 procedures blank, and then it has all the answers and some of the rationale. And you should be working through that section back there. And a lot of people didn't even know. Before I started bringing it out, they didn't even know that was existed back there. Really? And I think the AMA ICD-10 PCS has that in their book as well. So it's a pretty good deal. You practice. That's how you practice looking stuff up. When I was practicing for the CCS, that was like the number one thing I did, because while I had 13 years outpatient experience at the time, I had not had inpatient coding experience. And so my teaching on that had been very limited. And so a lot of that was self-taught. So I had to practice in order to get quick with that book, because you have to think about their approach, and then what were they doing and what was it for. So you have to think about all these things, and then you got to know like the body parts and stuff like that. It's very intense, so practicing those 388 procedures was the only thing that gave me confidence too. I was like, okay, now I got this. You go through 388 of those procedures, trust me, you're going to learn. You will learn. I do know, I have not seen him in quite a while. I hope he's okay. I hope he's okay too. He'll pop up here and there, and then I don't hear from him after that. And then I'll see him post on Facebook, because we're friends on Facebook as well. And then I don't see him. He just like, but he was like such a big part of like when I would do the lives, because I was doing lives a lot that year that I was in 2021 when I was doing my studies. I would come home from work, and of course I would do all of my afternoon stuff, and then I would come on lives. I would do lives every single day, and he was there on the lives, and of course he had to get everybody's attention. And then one day he just got his certification and he just stopped altogether. I don't know. Yep. But yes, Jacqueline, the CCS exam. That's it's one of those things. When I took it, the day that I took it, the day that I was getting ready to take my CCS, I'd already been to the Pearson View place that they have set up for the exams. So I already knew where it was. So that morning I got up and I had my test scheduled for the afternoon because I'm better in the afternoon, more sharper in the afternoon than I am in the morning. So I think I scheduled my test for like noon. And so I went and I got breakfast. I remember I got Wendy's breakfast, which I love Wendy's breakfast. I don't eat it all the time, but it's it's a croissant. It's a bacon, egg, and cheese croissant. I don't eat bacon anymore, but it's a bacon, egg, and cheese croissant, and then they have the potato wedges. So I had that with some tea, and then I was watching Monk because I love the show Monk, and that was how I was able to just like be calm in the morning. So I ate that, and then I was getting ready to go over to the testing site, and then I just got my books, gathered them up together. It was raining that day, and so I went to the testing center, and of course I'm guarding my books because I don't want them to get all wet and messed up. And so I got there a little bit early, and they were able to get me all squared in and everything. And I'm excited to take this test because I know that this is it, right? I have studied for this. I have studied ICD-10 PCS, and I was ready. I was like, yes, I've got that outpatient side down, no problem. And I've got this inpatient side down. I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. And that was my mantra for the day. I can do this. So I get all checked in and everything, and I'm starting to feel those butterflies of excitement, right? I'm not really nervous, but I do have that butterfly feeling, right? And so I'm just like, where do I go? Where do I go? And so then I get my books, and then they're escorting me back there to the computer to set me up to take my test. I drive a sports car, and I love my car. I love my car so much. I love my baby. I left my keys on the check-in desk. That's how butterfly I felt because I was excited to get it done, right? And so as soon as I sat down and they set up the computer and then they left is when I realized, oh, I left my freaking keys on the counter. And I said, man. And I said, well, if anything happens, I'll just call a friend or call a taxi. It'll be all right. It'll be all right. And I had that in my head for a split second. I'm like, I could go back out. And I was, no, I am not losing any time on this exam. I have got to do this exam. So I didn't know where my keys were, but you know what? That did not matter. I was going to take care of it later. I was going to have to do that test right now. So I was like, okay, I got to focus. So I get into the focus of the test, right? And so I'm going through there and I'm flipping my books because, you know, I have my books and they're all one on top of the other because it's very limited space. And I'm having to flip books and go do this and do that and answer. And then it does the first half of the test because it's in two parts. You know, you have your multiple choice and then you have your case studies. I was watching the time to make sure that I still had enough time for the case studies. And then, of course, it doesn't tell you the time correctly because, like, you're thinking, like, 1 hour, you know, that you've been in it. No, it does a backwards countdown. And so your time is going by backwards. And so you have to kind of, like, think, like, how much time is this left? You know, and you're thinking, I gotta hurry up. And so, like, I'm starting to sweat because I'm in the second part of the case studies part, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm like, this clock is going by so fast, this is not fair. And so I'm like, I cannot not answer these questions. And I'm like trying to go through as fast as I can. I'm like, okay, yeah, I got this one, and I'm like, crud, I gotta go back on this one. I'm like, hold on, let me think before I answer this question, because you can't go back, you cannot go back. And I'm like, oh, what am I gonna do? And I'm like, if anything this question is not going to get me. So it's you can miss questions, but not a lot, right? And I'm like, I'm fairly confident on everything else. If I don't get this one, it's totally fine, whatever. 8 minutes left on the clock. Finish. And I'm like, oh, God, I'm like, I finished. 8 minutes left. You want to talk about like sweat pouring down, and it's raining outside, and I'm like, please don't let the power go out. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want anything to happen to this test. They came in and they got me, because you can't leave. You got to wait, right? They know, and then you got to raise your hand, and then they come in and they collect you, right? And then they log you out. And then they brought me out, and I'm sitting there and I'm like cradling my books, and I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And so the lady goes over to the little printer, and then she goes, oh, congratulations. And she hands me a paper. I'm like, oh, I passed it. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, I passed. And I'm like, I'm going to throw up, man. Because I was just like, your nerves, everything, all the adrenaline. And I could feel all the adrenaline just coming right out of me. I was just like, oh my gosh. I was shaking, and I was holding this paper, and I was so happy. And I was like, okay. I said, we did this. We did this. And I walked out of there, and I was like skipping out of there. I was so excited, and, called my Uncle Carl, and I told him. He's like, yeah, man. And he was so happy, and I called my friend Linda. She's like, oh, that is so good. And so, but it was very awesome. It was an awesome feeling to pass the test that day. So, and then the next day, I could not wait. I could not wait to update my signature block. So I was like, I get to update my signature block. So I put the little comma, and I put my credentials on there. I was so excited because I had now had CCS, CCSP on my name. So I was like, and then of course I turned in my certificate once I got it to my boss so that she could put it in my file and things like that. Because, you have to, you don't have to, but you should, that's professional development. And you're, showing your progression and everything like that. She's like, oh, congratulations. So it's very nice to get that. Very nice. Let's see. Luna says, good for him, and I'm proud of him. Me too. Michelle says, oh, I love hearing about the day of your exam. Yes, it was so good. It was so good. And then after that, I went to Olive Garden because I was like, you know what? I'm going to celebrate, because I was starving, right? And my stomach was like, and I'm like, okay, I got to go get something to eat. So I went and I picked up chicken Alfredo, and I picked up some tea, and then I picked up those, they have those little Italian donuts. And I was like, you know what? I deserve that. And so I got those, I brought them home, and it was still kind of raining outside. And then as soon as I got everything set up and I sat down, and I literally started to cry because I was like, I did it. Like, this is the Mastery Medical Coding Certification. I did it. I'm here. You know what I mean? Like, this was so exciting, and I was so tired. Like, all that adrenaline and everything. It was like I was finally coming down. Like, I was still shaking, but it was not as bad as when I had first got the news. And then I came on and I told everybody too. So I think I got something to share. So, but that was a very cool day. I was very, very proud, very happy. So, but yes, and I don't ever want to go through something like that again. But that's a test for you. That's a test, and I was ready. I knew I was ready. It was just a matter of showing up, getting in there, getting the test, So I do still feel emotion like everybody else, but you have to keep your emotions in check, okay? Especially in this part of your journey. When you're studying and all this, you got to keep yourself in check. Because even when I was studying up till, and I had stopped studying because this was in November, early part of November. November 3rd, I think, was when I got my CCS. And then it was about late October that I had stopped studying. I was like, I'm not studying anymore. There's something else I can learn. And so anytime I would get frustrated in the beginning, because I started the really heavy duty part of the coding study was in April. And I would get frustrated too because I was just like, this does not make sense. I don't get this. I don't get this. And I'm like, how is this? And so I would look at the answers in the answer key, and that's how I would reverse teach myself. Like that's how I could start to like put the words together to like connect it. And I'm like, oh, now that makes sense. So when I started to get faster at it, I was like, okay, I'm doing really good. This is good, you know, and it worked. And that's what I share with all of you. So, um, yes. Thank you, Melinda, Jacqueline. Can't wait to tell you about my exam story. Oh, I'll be waiting. I'll be waiting. Catalina says, "Hi, Blue. I recently found your channel, and I love how open and upfront you are, and not sugarcoating anything. I just started my self-studying journey towards becoming a medical coder. Good. That's awesome. That's awesome. So, but yes, that's my journey." And that's how y'all can get confident too. Is you gotta study, and you're not studying all the time that it's gonna drive you and your family crazy. But you are studying consistently for 20 hours. Stick with that. Cannot go wrong doing that. And the people that are like, well, I still don't understand how many hours you putting in. Well, honestly, whenever I hear that, 5 hours, maybe 10. Maybe 10. And I think sometimes that 10 is an exaggeration because they know me already, and they're like, well, honestly, I said, nope, don't give me well, honestly, what is it you're putting in? Well, 5 hours, if I'm being honest. Okay, we need to step it up. Then we need 15 more hours. I just can't do that. Yes, you can. You got time for TikTok, right? You got time for Instagram and all these other Snapchat, whatever. I don't even know if people use Snapchat anymore, but you got time for that. You got time for this. You got time for this. And you put in those little bits of time in every day, you will make it. And this will be easier for you to learn. And you will read your coding guidelines, or you will listen to them, right? And so that way you can get to learning, because once you get those guidelines, you don't have to memorize the guidelines, but you do have to know them frequently so that it can go into your brain, and you could be like, oh yeah, wait a second, I heard something about that. Like if you have a sepsis issue in your coding, well, you know that's a sequencing thing too. You got to make sure you pay attention, because if they have sepsis, you got to be careful, because again, severe sepsis and then sepsis, you got to watch it. So if you're looking at your guidelines, you know exactly where to go. Because there was a few times that I was like, oh, let me look at the guidelines real quick. And so everything is timed, guys. Everything is timed. So that's why you got to know those books forward and backward. And it's just this investment of time just to get you started. But this, believe it or not, is what will get a lot of people out of the industry too, because it's too hard. It's not too hard. You just need to learn how to study more efficiently. And if you make that time, you set that clock, and you start to do that like consistently like you should, then you're okay. If you have a very busy week and you just can't get to your studies that week, don't let that be the reason that you just give it all up. Okay, I missed last week, I'm just going to go ahead and start again this week, and then you move on from there. But you don't give yourself permission to give up, and you don't give yourself permission to be like, oh yeah, well, I couldn't do it. Because then there's always going to be somebody, so you see, I told you, he or she couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. You see, they always quit. I wouldn't want somebody saying that about me. And first of all, how dare you say that about me? I'll quit if I want to. But I'm not going to allow a temporary feeling, which frustration is a temporary feeling, to cloud my judgment and shape what I do as a career. Because you're going to have frustrating moments. Even when you get out in the real world, you'll have frustrating moments. But it's up to you how you handle that. Just saying. So, with that said, does anybody else have anything? I can't believe I missed a whole comment. It was like a huge comment, and I missed it all. Yeah, but don't do that, guys. Don't sit here and say, I can't self-study. That's so freaking annoying. It's annoying because everybody can self-study. It's just whatever you believe in your mind that you can do. You could do anything. You could do anything. And people, what is it they say on Instagram or whatever? that they having delusions. They're being delusional, and then they're totally in with it. And then they're like, oh yeah, then this happened because I was delusional about it. It's not delusion. It is believing in yourself. There's a difference, you know? And so it's usually something that you're very capable of, that you can do that anyway. But sometimes it's difficult if you can't see it for yourself. If you can actually see it for yourself happening, like I've visualized myself passing my certification exam, no problem, you know, because I can see it. And once you can see it, you can visualize it, that's part of your journey right there. I'm just saying. All right. Since y'all are quiet, I guess I will go ahead and wrap it up. But yes, that's my episode for today. And tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about, because I'm going to film that one right after this. What is it? Oh, adding on additional credentials. So there's going to be some instances where, yeah, you should, but then you got to be careful about which credentials you're adding on to make sure that it's going to add value to you and not be just like repeating and redundant credentials, because that's stupid, because you're going to be wasting money then. I'm just saying. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Thank you guys so much for being a great audience. Why you say this now? What is the difference between coding for hospitals versus insurance companies? What kind of question is this? What is your advice for a new coder on where to start? You can watch my channel, and there is no such thing as coding for a hospital versus coding for insurance companies. It doesn't even, I don't get it. I'm going to wrap this one up. Thank you guys so much for joining me. If this video helped you, please like, subscribe, and share. And I'll see y'all next time. Bye.